Aloha, Haribol. My name is Janapati Das. Welcome to the Shri Ishopanishad read through. We are going to be reading Mantra 5 today. So please accept my respects, everyone. I'd like to also offer my most humble obeisances unto my spiritual master, Jagat Guru Siddhaswarapanana Srila Prabhupada, and to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are reading from his Shri Ishopanishad, the purport from Bhaktivedanta, and of course also from Jagat Guru, my dear spiritual master, the 18 Pearls of Vedic Wisdom commentary on the Shri Ishopanishad. Please join along. We will chant some of Krishna's names to start off our class. Namo Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Namo Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Haribo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my most humble obeisances unto him. Haribo. So we are going to read Mantra 5 from the Shri Ishopanishad. Well, let me read through the first 4, the invocation and the first 4 mantras, as we do at the beginning of this class. Invocation. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as a complete whole. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also completed by itself. And because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. Mantra 1. Everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one must not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. Mantra 2. One may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continuously goes on doing work in that way, because that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma, and there is no alternative to this way for man. Mantra 3. The killer of the soul, whoever he may be, must enter into the planets known as the worlds of the faithless, full of darkness and ignorance. Mantra 4. The personality of Godhead, although fixed in his abode, is more swift than the mind and can overcome all others running. The powerful demigods cannot approach him. Although in one place he has control over those who supply the air and rain, he surpasses all in excellence. Mantra 5. Tad ejati tanai jati tadure tadvantike tad antarashya sarvashya tadu sarvashya bhayataha. Tat, this Supreme Lord, Ejati, does walk. Tat, he, not. Ejati does walk. Tat, he is. Dure, far away. Tat, he is. Also. Antike, very near. Tat, he is. Antar, within. Asya, of this. Sarvasya, all. Tat, he is. Also. Sarvasya, all. Asya, of this. Bhayataha, external to. Purport, or translation, I should say. The Supreme Lord walks and does not walk. He is far away, but he is very near as well. He is within everything, and yet he is outside of everything. So this seemingly contradictory statement, walking but not walking, being far away but very near, being everything, but yet he is outside of everything and within everything. In the material sense, somebody who walks cannot not walk. And someone who's far away can also not be very near, or within something cannot be outside of everything. It's like I am not also outside. But when we're talking about the Supreme Lord, and we've been reading a lot about the completeness of Krishna and the completeness of the emanations, and the fact that Krishna is known in different aspects of realization. He's known in his Brahman impersonal feature, so he can be present within anywhere in his energy. So he can walk, but he also does not walk. He is far away, but he is also near. He can come. He said in the previous verse that he is swifter than the mind. So when we call out to Krishna, Krishna is present. And the purport by his by his divine grace. Here is an explanation of the Supreme Lord's transcendental activities by his inconceivable potencies. Inconceivable potencies. So we cannot conceive of or understand Krishna. Not even the great demigods can understand or approach Krishna, let alone can we really come to understand by our mental speculations and our puny little minds, which are full of so much fallacies and problems. It's inconceivable to know the Supreme, his potencies, or even all of his potencies. And it's said that Anantasesha, with all the unlimited mouths, Anantasesha, Lord Balaram, in his snake form, right, that umbrella, with all of his mouth, cannot even begin to scratch the surface of praises and of glories and pastimes of Krishna. There are two sets of contradictory words mentioned herein to prove the inconceivable potency of the Lord. He walks and he does not walk. These two phrases are contradictory. If someone can walk, then it is improper to say that he cannot walk. These contradictions show the inconceivable power of God. With our limited fund of knowledge, we cannot accommodate such things, and therefore the Lord is conceived in terms of our limited powers of understanding. So the philosophers of the days and our Michelangelos and speculating thinkers of the world try to capture the mind, capture the Lord and the absolute truth with their little pea brains and minds. They're not capable of doing it. And our understandings as philosophers and psychologists and scientists are limited only to the ability of our minds to create things. The impersonalist philosophers of the Mayavada school accept only the impersonalist part of the Lord's activities and refute his personal feature. The Bhagavad school, however, accepts the Lord in both ways. So we have Bhagavan, which means the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Mayavadi, Maya means the material energy, and Vadi is underneath. That means they are subjected to the influence of Mayavadi, the truth of Maya. Vada comes from Veda, which means truth, right? So their truth is that Maya Devi is more powerful than God, which is really crazy, since Maya Devi, the material energies are known as an emanation from God. So contradictory. But this is not the contradictory that's being taught here by Bhagavata schools. We understand the impersonal feature of God and the personal feature of God from which all the emanations come from, is stated from the invocation. The Bhagavat school, however, accepts the Lord in both ways, as personal and impersonal, and the Bhagavatas also accept his inconceivable potencies. Without inconceivable potency, there is no meaning to the word Supreme Lord. So it's very true. God is the source of all things, so therefore his inconceivable potencies and powers, even though we don't understand them, we don't see them with our minds or our mud eyes, doesn't mean that they don't exist. They're inconceivable, and they should be inconceivable, because if we think about an all-powerful God that is the source of all things, including our minds and our abilities to think on a level, we are not God. We can accept the fact that we are not God, even though we act like God in this material world. But most people would say that, yeah, okay, are you God? Are you God? And they would probably say, no, I'm not God. So how is it that you think that you can capture the understanding of God with your fallacies of a mind, your little pea brain that is full of mistakes and faults and whatnot? We should not take it for granted that because we cannot see God before our eyes, that there is no personal existence of the Lord. To refute this sort of argument, Shri Ishopanishad warns us that the Lord is very far away from us, but he is very near to us also. the abode of the Lord is beyond the material sky, and we have no means to measure even the material sky. If just the material sky is so far, far away from us, then what of the spiritual sky, which is beyond the material sky altogether? We have a difficult time even understanding the universe alone, let alone our own solar system. It's like we're going to understand God too. Then what the spiritual sky is situated far, far away from the material world is further confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. But in spite of the Lord's being so far away, he can at once, within less than a second, descend before us with a speed more powerful than the mind or the air. He can walk so quickly that no one can surpass him. This fact has already been described in the previous verse. When the personality of Godhead thus comes before us, however, we neglect him. This negligence on the part of the foolish people is condemned by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord says that the foolish deride him. Mudra, right? Mudra, foolish. These are the foolish people, demoniac living entities who, show me God. I don't see God. God doesn't exist because I don't see him. They mock God. In modern Kali Yuga, it is very common for people to mock people who believe in God, who accept God's existence, I should say. Not believe. We don't believe anything we know. But they're the devotees of empirical science and speculation, material speculation. So they take shelter of such things, and they say, oh, this is not science. This is science. And God is just some man, an old man who lives up in the sky that people created to feel comfortable, feel protected. The Lord says that the foolish deride him, taking him to be one of the mortal beings. But he is not a mortal being, nor does he come before us with a body produced of material nature. So, along that lines, many people will say, well, okay, we understand that the concept of God not being a mortal being, but they think about him in terms of mortal being. I can't create anything that greater universe. I can't maintain such a complex system of the material world. So how could there be a being that could do that? Because Krishna is not a mortal being. He's not material. He is a spiritual being. He is the source of all things. He is Bhagavan. But he is not a mortal being, nor does he come before us with a body produced of material nature. So Bhaktivedanta says here. There are many so-called scholars who say that when the Lord descends, he does so in a body of matter, just like an ordinary living being. Such foolish men place the Lord on an equal level to that of the ordinary man, not knowing his inconceivable power. Because he is full of inconceivable potencies, God can accept our service through any sort of medium, and he can convert his different potencies according to his own will. The unbelievers argue that the Lord cannot incarnate himself, or if at all he descends in a form of material energy. This argument is nullified if we accept his inconceivable potencies as realities. Even if he appears before us in the form of material energy, it is quite possible for him to convert the material energy into spiritual energy. Just like prasadam, right? So we offer things, we offer food, stuff which is material energy. To Krishna, it is spiritualized. It becomes the mercy of Krishna. Krishna is so easily able to convert that apple that we offer into Mahaprasadam, spiritual, of the mercy of God. The source of the energies being one and the same, the energies can be utilized suitably according to the will of the energetic source. So Krishna is the complete source, as it says in the invocation. He's the complete source, and all emanations come from him, are complete in themselves. But they emanate from Krishna. They come from Krishna. The energies come from Krishna, whether they're material or they're spiritual. Krishna is the source, the controller of all the energies. He can do whatever he wants with those things. And that is inconceivable potencies. We cannot fathom that with our little pea brains. And it frustrates and you tell these things to atheists and they're just like scoffing because they feel like they know the absolute truth. They've taken shelter in their own minds and pea brains. For example, the Lord appears in the form of arca, or deity, supposedly made of earth or stone. These forms engraved from wood or stone or any other matter are not idols, however, as is held by iconoclasts. So we're not worshiping, when we worship the deities, we are not worshiping the stone or the wood, we are worshiping Krishna. And Krishna, and the forms of Krishna are prasadam. They are spiritualized because Krishna is capable of entering into his own energy. It's nothing really, oftentimes you get these people who are like Muslims or they have no form of God because they say, well, everything is, if you make a form of God, that's a blasphemy. But Krishna, is God not capable of entering into forms in the energies that he creates, that emanate from him? Absolutely. In the present state of our imperfect material existence, we cannot see the Supreme Lord on account of our imperfect vision. But still, those devotees who want to see him by means of material vision are favored by the Lord, who appears in so-called material form to accept the devotee's service. This does not mean that such devotees who are in the lowest stage of devotional service are worshiping an idol. In fact, they are worshiping the Lord, who has agreed to appear before them in the particular way which is approachable by them. So what is seemingly material energy is actually spiritualized. Just like the names of Krishna, when handed down by pure devotees, coming from the lips of the pure devotee in a disciplic lineage, may be like a sound vibration, a seemingly sound vibration, material sound vibration, but it's actually spiritual. But at the same time, the same mantra could be handed down by an impersonalist or a offender, and it is likened to a shadow. For example, if you see the fan blowing, and you know that if you put your hand in front of it, you'll feel air because the fan is the real thing. But if you look on the wall, sometimes if the sun's shining in, you'll see the shadow of the fan. But if you put your hand by the shadow, you will not feel any air because it is a false representation of the real thing. So the shadow representation of a material sound vibration of the mantra handed down by offenders or impersonalists, it will not have the same effect that the same mantra will be chanted by a pure devotee of Krishna. Who has agreed to appear? Okay, so this arca form is not fashioned in terms of the order or whim of worshipper. It is eternally existent with all its paraphernalia. This can be actually felt by a sincere devotee, but not by an atheist. Because Krishna it's a relationship that you have with Krishna. You want to say, Krishna, I am yours. Krishna, I want you to come into my heart. I want you to have a loving relationship with me, Krishna. You're my dearest friend and well-wisher. As opposed to somebody who's like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you're an existent, you're just a myth. It's like, so a person could be looking at an idol with this enviousness in their heart. And Krishna's like, well, you don't really want to see me. That's okay. I won't make it so you can see me. And I give you the information to deny my existence because you don't really want to have a loving relationship with me. So it's very similar to real life. If you're wanting to have a relationship with somebody, you're not just like mean to that person or just like, you're worthless or you don't exist or whatever, and expect that person to be like, oh yeah, okay. It's a free will thing, There's a relationship going on. So we can't climb Krishna like a mountain. So the atheist trying to speculate about God but not really truly wanting to have a loving relationship with God will not be able to climb that mountain. Krishna is not a mountain, actually. Krishna is a person. He can choose to go far away as the person wants them to be. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that he treats his devotee in proportion to the degree of surrender made by the devotee. So that is the Bhagavad Gita. We had just read that recently in chapter 4. That the verse is, I'm trying to remember it exactly, but as they surrender to me, I have to paraphrase it because I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's in a previous class in my Bhagavad Gita files. But as they surrender unto me, I give them what they desire, right? So some people have different degrees of surrender. A lot of people have different degrees of surrender to God. He reserves the right not to expose himself to anyone and everyone except those who surrender unto him. Therefore, for the surrendered soul, he is always within reach, whereas the non-surrendered soul, he is far, far away and cannot be approached. So this is a very wonderful explanation of this verse also. Pretty self-explanatory, and that's why Krishna says at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, abandon all varieties of religion, just surrender to me. There are two words in the revealed scriptures which are important in this connection, Saguna and Nirguna, with qualities and without qualities. Saguna does not mean that the Lord becomes subject to the laws of material nature when he appears, although he has qualities and appears in the material form. For him, there is no difference between material and spiritual energies because he is the source of such energies. He's the source. He is the controller of the different energies, and as such, he cannot at any time be under their influence as we are. So a very perfect explanation to atheists. How could God do this? How could God do that? How could he not do that if he's the supreme controller, right? How can we understand that if we are limited in our ability? When we are certainly limited. I'm just one person. I don't have influence over other people. I don't have very much influence in my country. I can go out and protest or whatever and have a limited amount of influence. But there's only so much I can do. I'm limited as a living entity in a material body. I'm limited. But Krishna is not. The material energy works according to his direction, and therefore he can use the material energy for his purpose, but without ever being influenced by any one of the qualities of his energies. Nor for this purpose does he become a formless entity at any time. So, similarly, in the fact that everything is owned and controlled by Krishna, Krishna doesn't need anything from us. He doesn't need any offerings or anything like that, but he gives us the opportunity to come back and have a loving relationship. He loves the love from which we give, because we're in a loving relationship with God. That's what this is about. It's about love. And he's not really interested. It's kind of like in the same way that a mother is not interested in mud pies, but loves the love, or some kind of scratchy sort of card that they did in kindergarten. They're not like going, oh wow, this is worth a lot. But they love the fact when their son or daughter comes up to them and says, look, mommy, I made this for you. And they're offering this, and they love this love. And so similarly, Krishna loves the love that we offer things by. And he gives us this opportunity of his energy, which is already his anyways. Nor for this purpose does he become a formless entity at any time. Ultimately, he is the eternal form, the primeval Lord, and the impersonal representation or Brahman effulgence is his glow of his personal rays, as the sun rays are the glow of the sun god. When the boy saint, Prahlad Maharaj, was in the presence of his atheistic father, his father asked him, "Where is your God?" The child Prahlad replied that God resides everywhere. The father then angrily asked whether his God was within the pillar of the palace, and the child said yes. At once, the atheist king broke the pillar in front of him into pieces, at which the Lord appeared as Nrsimha, the half-man, half-lion incarnation, from within the pillar and killed the atheist king. This means that the Lord is within everything, which is created by his different energies. And by his inconceivable power, he can appear at any place in order to favor his sincere devotee. Lord Nrsimha appeared from within the pillar, not at the order of the atheist king, but by the wish of the devotee Prahlad. An atheist cannot order the Lord to appear, but to show mercy to his devotee, the Lord can appear anywhere and everywhere. So Nrsimha, Krishna, appeared at the behest of his son, of his devotee Prahlad, not because the king was like, "Well, show me your God, show me the God," He came because Prahlad made the statement that God was everywhere, and Nrsimha validated that. The Bhagavad Gita confirms this in the statement that the Lord appears to vanquish the unbelievers and to protect the believers. To vanquish an unbeliever, of course, the Lord has sufficient energies and agents who can do the work, but to favor the devotee is a pleasing task for him, and therefore he descends as an incarnation. He does so only to favor his devotees, then, and not for any other purpose. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that Govinda, the primeval Lord, enters everything by his plenary portion. He enters the universe as well as the atoms of the universe. He is outside in the Virat form, and he is within as Antaryami. As Antaryami, he is witness of everything that we are doing, and he gives us the results of our actions as karma phala. We ourselves may forget what we have done in previous lives, but because the Lord is the witness of our actions, the results of our actions is always there, and we have to undergo the reactions all the same. In fact, there is nothing except God within and without. Everything is manifested by his different energies, like the heat and light of fire, which means there is a oneness among the diverse energies. In spite of this oneness, however, the Lord enjoys in his personal form all that is enjoyable to the little senses of the part and parcel living entities. Okay, so reading on from Jagadguru Purport, Mantra 5. Reading the translation again. Keep track of time there. The Supreme Lord walks and he does not walk. He is far away, but he is also very near. He is within everything and yet is outside of everything. Purport by Jagadguru, His Divine Grace Jagadguru. With God, the inconceivable is conceivable. For a person with limited fund of knowledge and a limited degree of faith in the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Lord, this mantra contains an irreconcilable contradictions. Get my tongue in the right place. It says the Supreme Lord walks, yet the Supreme Lord does not walk. It declares that the Lord is far away, then says he is very near. It says he is within everything, and then it declares that he is outside of everything. A pure devotee of the Supreme Lord accepts the Lord's inconceivable potencies, and therefore is not in any way doubtful that the inconceivable is conceivable with the Supreme Lord. In other words, the devotee faithfully accepts that all things are possible with God. And this comes from, there's a story of the cobbler. We probably have heard this one. The cobbler and the yogi practicing penances. And Narada Muni is coming along, and he sees a yogi practicing penances, and the yogi says, "Oh, you look like a famous person. And he says, yes, I'm Narada Muni. And he says, oh, Narada Muni, please accept my respects. And he said, I've been, doing these austerities and fasts and for so long, and I'm getting tired. Where are you going? He says, I'm going to see Lord Narayan, Krishna. He said, oh, well, that's great. Can you ask him when I will be coming back to the spiritual world? I'm very tired, and I've been working really hard in all my great austerities. And he said, yeah, okay. So then he goes along, and he sees a cobbler, a simple cobbler, fixing shoes, and a devotee of Krishna, a devotee of Narayan. And he says, oh, great Narada Muni, please accept my most humble obeisances, and pays his obeisances. And says, where are you going? He says, I'm going to see Krishna, I'm going to see Lord Narayan. And he was really happy, and he said, oh, that's so wonderful. And if you see my Lord, can you please ask him when I will be coming back to him? And so Narada Muni says, okay. He goes to see Narayan and visits with Narayan and whatever, does what Narada Muni does, and he goes to travel all over the material and spiritual world. So Narada Muni, Narayan says, oh, one more thing. I know you have seen the yogi and the cobbler. He says, Narada Muni tells him about the cobbler and the yogi. He says, oh, the yogi is very fortunate. He will come back to the spiritual world, come back to me in maybe 100 or 1,000 lifetimes. Very, very short. And the cobbler will come back to me. This is his last life. And so anyway, so one more thing. They'll ask me what I was doing here. You will please tell them that I was threading elephants through the eye of a needle. And so he said, okay. Narada Muni didn't understand that, but he said, okay, he'll do that. And he went to the yogi, and the yogi said, oh, Narada Muni, have you seen Lord Narayan? And he told me when I'm coming back. And he said, oh, yes. He said, you're very fortunate. This is you have only 1,000 lifetimes to come back. And he says, 1,000 lifetimes? I've been practicing so hard, working really hard. I don't think you're Narada Muni. Get out of here. And so Narada Muni goes on his way. Oh, he said, oh no, sorry, jump at the story a little bit. He said, 1,000 lifetimes? Oh, well, if you really saw Narayan, what was he doing when you saw him? Well, he was threading elephants through the eye of a needle. I knew you weren't Narada Muni. You were like, what? Nobody can thread elephants through the eye of a needle. Get out of here, you scoundrel. So Narada Muni left. And he came to the cobbler and he said, Narada Muni, please accept my most humble obeisances. Did you see our Lord in your visits? He said, yes. Did he tell you when I would be coming back to him? He said, yes, you're very fortunate. This is your last life. And the cobbler was so happy. He said, oh, that is so wonderful. Please tell me what was my Lord doing when you saw him? And Narada Muni said he was threading elephants through the eye of a needle. The cobbler started dancing and chanting. He said, so wonderful, my Lord is so wonderful, threading elephants through the eye of a needle. And Narada Muni stopped him and said, you actually believe that he was threading elephants through the eye of a needle? And he said, why wouldn't he do that? Why couldn't he do that? And he said, he picked up a seed from the banyan tree. He said, this large banyan tree has a seed, and there are thousands and millions of these seeds, and each of them have so many little banyan trees that will grow into giant banyan trees inside this little seed. How is it impossible that our Lord can do things as simple as threading elephants through the eye of the needle? So the point being was that, and this is, okay, I see the story is already here, because Srila Prabhupada, I heard it recently. So I'm going to go ahead and read it. I didn't have to even tell the story. Probably would have been better just to read it. There is an ancient story that illustrates this very point. One day, Narada Muni, a famous pure devotee of the Lord who has the power to travel at will anywhere within the material and spiritual worlds, was on his way to see the Supreme Person face to face in his kingdom. Before he left for God's kingdom, he came upon a mystic yogi who had been undergoing severe austerities and penances for many years, trying to achieve perfection in mystic yoga. Upon seeing Narada Muni, the yogi sensed that he was a great spiritual person and asked Narada who he was. Narada Muni replied, "I am Narada Muni. I am on my way to see the Supreme Person." The yogi paid his respects and then asked Narada Muni, "Could you please do something for me? When you see the Lord, could you ask him when I will be liberated from the wheel of birth and death?" Narada Muni agreed and went on his way. He then came upon a humble cobbler who lived under a tree. As soon as the cobbler saw Narada Muni, he stood up to pay his respects. He then asked Narada Muni, "You seem like a saintly person. Who are you? What is your business?" Narada Muni replied, "I am Narada Muni, and I am on my way to see the Supreme Lord." The cobbler was very excited to hear this, and he asked Narada Muni, "Could you please do a favor for me? Could you please ask him when I will be liberated from the wheel of birth and death?" Narada Muni consented and went on his way. Narada Muni saw the Supreme Lord, and when he was just about to leave, it said, "Oh yes, one more thing. There is a mystic yogi and there is a cobbler. Both of them want to know when they will be liberated." The Supreme Lord said, "You can tell the yogi he will be liberated only after 100 lifetimes, and you can tell the cobbler that his present body will be his last. He will be liberated because he is my pure devotee. This as they surrender unto me, I give them what they want, The pure devotee is completely surrendered to Krishna." Feeling very happy, Narada Muni was about to leave when the Lord said, "Oh yes, one more thing. They will both ask you what I was doing when you saw me. Tell them that I was threading elephants through the eye of a needle." Narada Muni then returned to the material world and first came upon the mystic yogi. The mystic yogi immediately asked Narada, "Did you see the Supreme Lord, and did he say when I would be liberated from this miserable material world? I've been engaging in so many penances and austerities. Obviously, I deserve to be liberated quite soon. After all, I'm a very advanced yogi by now. I'm a great mystic." Narada Muni replied, "The Supreme Lord stated that you are very fortunate and you will be liberated after 100 lifetimes." The mystic yogi, extremely angered, expressed his doubt that this could be possible, saying, "I can't believe you. I don't even know if you really are the great Narada Muni. Tell me, if you really saw the Supreme Lord, what was he doing when you saw him?" Narada Muni said, "He was threading elephants through the eyes of a needle." The yogi then laughed, saying, "That's ridiculous. Now I know for sure that you are simply a charlatan. You never saw the Supreme Lord at all. No one could thread elephants through the eye of a needle. I should have known you weren't really Narada Muni." So it's the same kind of attitude that people are like, "Well, I can't do this, or nobody I know can do this, so how could it be that the Supreme Lord can do this?" This is where you have the amount of enviousness that you have in your heart. Narada Muni continued on his journey and came upon the cobbler, who very humbly, respectfully, and expectantly greeted Narada Muni. "Did you see the Lord? Did you see the Lord? When did he say I would be able to come to him?" Narada replied, "The Supreme Lord said that this body will be your last. Upon leaving this body, you will go to him. You will not have to take on any more material births because you are his pure devotee. Your love for him is unflinching." The cobbler was very happy upon hearing this, and out of sincere inquiry, wanting to hear about the activity of the person of whom he loves, asked Narada, "When you saw my Lord, what was he doing?" Narada Muni replied, "He was threading elephants through the eye of a needle." Upon hearing this, the cobbler jumped with joy and began dancing and chanting the names of the Lord, crying tears of love, sometimes falling on the ground, sometimes dancing. Astonished, Narada Muni asked him, "My dear friend, do you not consider that it is inconceivable that the Lord would be putting elephants through the eye of a needle?" And the cobbler, who lived under a banyan tree, picked a fruit off the ground, opened it, and said to Narada Muni, "My dear Narada, there are countless thousands of these little fruits that fall off this banyan tree. And each of these fruits you will find there are hundreds and hundreds of little seeds. And in each of these little seeds the Supreme Lord has placed a giant banyan tree. For the Supreme Lord, nothing is inconceivable. He is truly wonderful. I love that story. It gives me shivers every time I hear it. The absolute truth, the Supreme Lord, is both impersonal and personal simultaneously. The impersonal feature of the Lord, known variously as the Brahman effulgence, the void, the ocean of effulgence, and so on, is without qualities or attributes. Because it is impersonal, obviously it does not contain the attribute of walking. However, this impersonal feature of God is but an offspring of the eternal personality of Godhead. Many transcendentalists know about the impersonal feature of God, but they don't know the personality of the absolute truth. God is not only impersonal, he is a person with his own eternal transcendental form. Being a person, he can walk. So the Shri Ishopanishad is so wonderful in this explanation of the complete understanding Krishna completely in all of his forms and his expansions. And that's why many religions and many kinds of spiritual paths only have partial God realization understanding. The spiritual world is very far away. No spaceship can reach the outer limits of even the material world, much less the spiritual world. Yeah, I've been watching these programs where they find the nearest planet or nearest sun, which is really by calculation to the whole universe not very far at all. It still would take like hundreds and hundreds of years going at light speed to get there. That's how far and how vast this universe really is. This is not very far. It's like the nearest galaxy or the edge of a galaxy, of the Milky Way galaxy. Not very far at all, but very far indeed. So even if the person traveled by a spaceship for millions of years, he could not reach the spiritual world. And even if it were possible for a person to reach the end of the material universe in a spaceship, he would not be able to actually enter the spiritual world with his material spacecraft or his material body. The outskirts of the kingdom of God, namely the impersonal feature of the Lord, the Brahman effulgence, can be reached only after piercing through the various layers of material elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. And the Srimad Bhagavatam has a very detailed description of the cosmology of this universe. Furthermore, even if one reaches the Brahman effulgence, he must go even further to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it can truly be said that the Supreme Lord is very far away. Yet the Supreme Lord is also very near. Since he is the source of all energies, nothing can be separated from him. Furthermore, he knows our every thought, deed, and desire. He hears and responds to his devotees' heartfelt prayers. So Krishna can hear. Krishna is in our heart. You know, there's a lot of like movement in atheism that of people not to pray for people or not to pray to God. You know, or to say things like, they're in my prayers. And these so-called leaders are like demoniac, and they're saying, we don't want your prayers. We want to change. We want to gun reform or whatever. But Krishna can hear the prayers of his devotees. Although his kingdom is so far away, he can appear before his devotees in less than a second. The Supreme Lord also expands himself as Paramama, the Lord in the heart of every living entity. So Krishna is in our heart. We can pray to Krishna, and many times it's our relationship, about the relationship with God that really is important. So the prayer is good. Yet his original personal form in his kingdom is not nullified or diminished in any way. The Brahma Samhita describes how the Lord enters not only the universe, but also every atom in the universe. So we can see how the Lord can be both within everything and yet outside of everything. He is in his kingdom, yet by his diverse potencies, by his energy, he is also present within everything in the universe. There is nothing but God within and without. Everything is a manifestation of his different energies, like the heat and light of fire. This means there is oneness among the diverse energies of the Lord. Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva. Simultaneously one but different. From the time immemorial, practitioners of bhakti and karma yoga have engaged in the practice of deity worship. Deity worship is not idol worship. So we make this clarification when people think that we're worshiping idols. We're not worshiping idols. We explain to them that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. God is capable of entering into his energies. To say that he cannot enter into his own energy, external energy, which emanates from him, is basically impersonalism or atheism. To say that God is not absolute, as the less educated sometimes contend. A person who looks upon and worships the Supreme Lord as he appears in matter, paintings, statues, and so forth, does not worship matter. He is not worshiping the statue. He does not worship wood, paint, paper, stone, or gold. So, similarly, when God told Moses to shall not have any other idols besides me, he was right. He was right. But idols mean basically that which is not God. So there have been many things in the forms of money. We worship God as sexual desire, to try to get other people, to try to manipulate situations so that they have more money. They're worshiping. So the worship of idols does happen, but it's when you're not worshiping that which is God. And so worshiping those things that my deity presents to you is idol worship, because they do not have to do with the spiritual nature. Rather, such a yogi fully appreciates the fifth mantra that all energies are actually the Lord's energy, and that therefore he can appear in the form of matter without becoming material or coming under the laws of material nature. God is not wood or stone, nor is wood or stone God, but these objects are made of his energy, and he can utilize that energy to appear before those living beings who are trapped in the world of matter. Similarly, Krishna allows us to offer those things that are seemingly matter back to Krishna, and they become like sticking a iron stick into the fire, becomes spiritualized. But the objects are made of his energy, and he can utilize that energy to appear before the living beings who are trapped in the world of matter. So Krishna gives us the opportunities to worship him while we're in the material world. And similarly, he can receive the worship such as forms. One should not think that God is a wooden statue or painting, but one should also appreciate that because of his inconceivable potencies, God can reveal his transcendental forms, qualities, compassion, love, and other attributes via the apparently material energy. In other words, God converts his material energy into spiritual energy for his devotees. So it's like, I have a picture of Balaram and Krishna. We worship Balaram and Krishna, and the idea of, of Vrindavan. This tells us a story, but this is a fabric. We don't worship the cloth. We don't worship the paint that was used or the ink they used to make all the colors in this thing. We don't worship the stitches or the thread. We worship Krishna and Balaram. We worship the Supreme Lord. We are worshiping God. In other words, God converts his material energy into spiritual energy for his devotee. For the materialist, however, the wooden or marble statue remains just that. They're like, oh, what a beautiful form of print of Krishna and Balaram. What a beautiful wood statue. What a beautiful... No, the devotee is like, oh, Krishna. How beautiful, Krishna. The purpose of meditation is to keep the mind on the Supreme Lord. Deity worship especially helps the neophyte devotees. Deity worship instills in a person the conviction that God is not simply void or impersonal, but is in fact a person. And one can have a personal, loving relationship with him. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 26, the Lord states, if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. So, even in the Bible, it refers to God's form, because there was a story about Moses, and God came and explained that he comes to Moses and sees Moses face to face because of Moses' devotion and love towards the Yahweh, towards God. And this enviousness that Aaron and Sarah had of Moses made it so they were not able to see Krishna face to face. The person who engages in deity worship is acting on the promise of the Lord as he meditates upon him in his mind or externally, as he appears in the form of a statue, picture, or so forth. When such a devotee makes a little advancement, he no longer sees paint or wood or stone when he looks at the deity. He simply sees the Lord himself and holds him in the core of his heart. Whew. This practice of deity worship immensely helps the person cultivate his personal loving relationship with God. It makes the practitioner aware that although the Lord is very far away, he is also very near. He is actually one's closest friend and companion. In mantras 4 and 5, we are being prodded to give up the teaching that God cannot do certain things. We are being taught to give up the habit of judging or trying to figure out God. If I could figure out God, then I would be greater than God. Therefore, God would not be God. For me to accept God as God, I must accept that his potencies are inconceivable. This is called faith. So amazing. Such an amazing purport by Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktivedanta. So wonderful. Thank you so much. Namaste.